Welcome back to the Composing Made Simple podcast. This is episode 29. On today's episode, we're just going to discuss, kind of throw things up on the wall and see what sticks. It's been a long time since we've done the podcast, so me, Curtis, and Chris just kind of go into what's going on in our lives and just kind of everything. So it's kind of a random episode. But anyway, let's get on into it.
Composing made simple. We talk about something new every show. Composing made simple. Grab a coffee, have a seat, and let's go.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's been a while since we've
Yes, it
did
has.
it. It's like we're getting the old band back together.
Totally.
From high school or something. Hey guys, let's jam. And yeah, so I think the last time we did a podcast was, I think, May. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I have a
That's the last time I had a call from you.
yeah. I think
Okay, there
Yeah.
we go.
yeah, life for me, changed a lot this year. Like I said, I joined a new team on my day job, and both my kids are going back to school. Last year, everything was homeschooled because the pandemic, which we're still kind of teetering in. I think it's starting to wind down. Why can't I say that? Wind down.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, it's starting to go away. I think we're all ready for that to get back to kind of life again. Not that we're not living life, but just kind of what this looming fear and thing in your background. Like, oh my God, because I know me personally. I mean, I've been vaccinated. I still try to wear a mask as much as I can, and my kids, they wear masks at school, and I mean, I look at it this way. It's like, hey, even if the mask works 50% of the time, hey, that's better than zero.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I just look at it that way. I don't care if you don't wear a mask. It's like, I don't want to get into this conversation, because this can get we could run off the tracks here pretty quickly. But I'm just saying, it's like, I think everybody should just shut up and do their part. That's all.
Mhm.
So anyway, enough of that. So anyway, yeah. So my life's kind of just been crazy. But how about you guys?
Go ahead, Curtis.
I mean, yeah, it's been pretty much the same as always. So yeah. Not much to report on my end, but just waiting for
Busy.
the end of the year, etc. So
Very nice.
Are you kind
Excellent.
of still waiting for Halo to kind of? I know they
Yeah.
released some betas.
yeah,
and
it'd be
stuff.
nice if they released the game, which they're
Yeah,
gonna.
right?
But
It's on my wish list on Steam, so I will buy it
Right.
just because you scored
Aw.
it.
oh,
Support it. So, I mean, I like Halo. I played it way back in the day. Xbox.
Yeah.
Back then. Halo 2, man. When I was in college, we would LAN party it up in the dorms and play other floors and just freaking, because that's when they released Xbox Live at that time, and you actually could have a mic and talk to people. I know that sounds so stupid today, but back then that was like, whoa, this is like
Yeah.
2004, 2005. Yeah, so that was pretty cutting edge at the time. And plus, I was at college, so we had T1 lines, dude. So I had fast internet. In 2004, that was, most people were still on dial-up.
Mm.
Oh,
Wow.
God, man. Just to talk like, oh, back in my day.
I still
I was
remember when
thinking about
was,
that, Curtis. Like, we
yeah.
should have a segment when we go into our old man. Like, we should have some voice come in. Hey, the old man segment.
back when
Anyway.
they would everybody's iTunes library, you could see it. Remember
Yes.
that? And
Yes,
like
yeah,
everybody on
something.
college, you could see everyone's iTunes library on the network
other-
and listen to their music. That was so weird.
This is the renegade days, man, when you can get away with a lot of stuff online. But anyway, Chris, how have you been, man? What's been
Yeah,
going on with
good.
you?
No, I was just saying, like, I kind of remember when I was maybe 5 or 6, we had cassettes in our house, and those are some good memories for sure. So
Those.
I'm not too old to, not know what those are, or to know what those are. And I think there were also, I remember MSN, like doing instant messenger on those.
yeah.
On that was fun too. Good.
Basically, in college, AOL Messenger was our texting.
There
And
we
I
go.
remember people would put up their away messages, like what they're doing. It was like, it's crazy how far we've come. But to really think about it, that wasn't that long ago. But yeah, it is long ago. But
It's like long ago.
because I had a flip phone
Yeah.
And like you wouldn't text on that thing. Like it's like you're crazy to think about
Yes.
texting on that phone. It was just basically a clock and you know, and could call people to, hey, let's get together. That was about it. Other than that,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, in grade 7, instead of having cell phones, I think my parents and I we had walkie-talkies. So we are like, okay,
oh yeah.
I'm 2 kilometers away. Get ready to come
Yes.
out.
Well,
And then-
back then,
yeah.
I think you could get I remember my phone could get AOL Instant Messenger on my phone, and I was like, whoa, like this is crazy. I could talk while I'm on my phone. I mean, you got to remember, this
Yeah.
is early days, man. Like the
Totally.
thought of the internet wasn't the internet like in the early 2000s, like people think, you know. We just
Right.
assume that it's always been like this, and it hasn't. Like we were not connected like we are now.
Totally.
And hey, how about that Facebook going down last week?
Yes. Yes. That
Yeah,
was,
make sure your business isn't on there.
there you
okay?
go.
Yeah, all you composers out there, because I see the forums and everybody conducts their business on Facebook. It's like, yeah, there you go. There's a wake up call. Make sure you have a
Yeah.
website. Make sure you're doing it on other platforms because
Yeah.
when
It's
gone. It's gone.
it's a tough position because like there was the thing about I think Apple trying to tighten up their policy, or I think it was either Facebook or Apple, but I think it was Apple, and Facebook is saying, yeah, so that as a result we have to bump up the price of our ads, right? And so people are saying,
Yeah.
oh, it's getting more expensive to do business on Facebook, and there's a higher chance that our stuff won't even be seen. So like you said, it really is just one of those moments where you have to either pivot off of Facebook or at least consider other avenues for
Yeah.
income if that's where you're hosting most of your stuff.
Yep, it's a tool. I mean, just like
Yeah.
sample levers. Anyway, like we should say before we just start yakking is we're just gonna do spaghetti on the wall, see what sticks, because we don't really have much planned because we haven't talked to each other, since May, and you
Yeah.
know we didn't really, we just wanted to get together and talk and get an episode out for everybody. So we'll probably be all over the place, but we'll try to keep it
Yeah.
music related or issue related or things that you could take away from.
So in other words, just like it's always been,
Yeah,
just kinda
basically.
all over.
With me ranting of my old,
But-
me and
but
Curtis ranting like
This
old
time even more
farts.
so.
The highest of production values. Yeah.
But I know a lot of people, we've gotten feedback from the Discord, which I apologize, I haven't been in there. It's they always just say they like hearing about our discussions and stuff like that. They really enjoy it. So our perspectives, which that means a lot to me. Because when we it's hard to believe to this day that we started this thing 3 years ago. Obviously my life is a way different spot than when we started this. I was basically freelancing and trying to do music more to make income. But yeah, it didn't happen that way, which is okay.
Yeah.
Which is life. And just to get off my soapbox, but I'm turning 40 in December, and a lot of things have happened. I guess this is another thing about me too this year. Just coming to a lot of realizations as a person and in my life. I'm going to be 40 years old. I'm pretty much middle-aged. I've seen a lot of stuff. It's hard to accept that I'm going to be 40 years old. Like I can't really think about that. Like it's like, what? I'm going to be 40? Like what?
Mm-hmm.
But I am, and I'm not afraid of it. I welcome it. I like being older and wiser, I hope. But the music thing for me, it's like, hey, it's okay if I don't make this my career. It's okay. I've accepted it. Like for
Mhm.
me, it's just about the ability to make music is good enough for me.
Yeah.
And if people enjoy it, great. If not, if I love it, and at the end of the day, it's what you should be doing it for, is yourself.
Mhm.
If you don't like what you're doing, then why are you doing it?
Yeah.
And I understand you guys are in different positions, and if this is what puts food on your table and supports your family, I get it. Sometimes you got to do something you don't want to do. I get that. Trust me, and I respect that. But I'm just saying it for me personally, and I think we've always said on the podcast, like I'm more the hobbyist, and you guys are more. We're all in different stages, and that's okay, and I'm cool with that. But anyway, so
Well, the hobbyist perspective is good because
Yeah.
I know. Then you get people like me, and I'm just like, buy everything, buy all of it, buy it. It's good, get it,
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
if
and
this
then
isn't-
6 months later, it's collecting dust. Oh
Right.
yeah, remember that library I bought that it was going to change my
my
life?
stuff doesn't collect dust because I add it
I
to
know
the
you don't.
template. But anyway,
There you go.
But I see this online a lot in the forums, and Chris, I think you had I don't know, a discussion or something. I can't remember where I saw
Uh-huh.
this, but I think it was a video maybe you did, like, why
Yeah.
are people buying libraries or
Yeah.
something, like, was something around that line, I think.
Yeah, it's like, why are we obsessed with sample libraries?
Yes, and I'll tell you what it is, at least from my perspective, is I think it's like people think they're going to get this new thing and it's going to change the way they write, or it's going to make them better. And that's not how you get better. It's not the library that makes the person. It's the person that makes the music.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Yeah, it helps to have a great sounding library or something that could spark an idea. But then after that's over, you have to do the rest. You have to do the work. You know what I mean? A library can only go so far. You got to put the work in, and you got to create the music. I mean, that's just. I mean, think about it. Some of the best scores ever written were written on paper, a pen and a piece of paper and pencil, and a piano.
Mhm.
There you go. So it ain't the library. It ain't the newest library. Oh my God, we got 75 mics on it. Oh boy, big deal. Like, and I understand the game's changed. I understand, like, it's all digital now. It's all, you know what I mean? Like, most library or scores you're hearing is probably digital. I mean, I don't know. I'm probably Hollywood movies. They probably still use orchestras, right? They just do the mock-ups, and they might keep the mock-up there and then add the strings and add people on top of it. I get it. I get it. But anyway.
Yeah, the thing about, like, libraries in general is just, and I guess the market, it's getting harder and harder to find new territory to cover, and so people, or the developers, just have to, become more creative, and this is the case for, you could say, the online commerce space too, or for fitness or whatever it is, right? We have to find new ways to serve the market. But if you really look into it, there's that same core set of libraries you could be using for most of your work, and so that will never really change. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to just what do we really need versus what do we see as just something we really want. And, we'll collect virtual dust, as we said. So
or something just to spend money on.
Yeah.
Take that money and invest it. You'll
There you
thank
go.
yourself in 10, 20 years. Trust me. Yeah, I mean, or take that money and invest in some music knowledge, some theory. Take some lessons from a
There you go.
composer.
There you
You
go.
see what I'm saying? That's how you're going to get return on your investment. Not a new sample library. I haven't bought a sample library. I don't remember the last one I even bought.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, because I have everything I need if I really want to get
Exactly.
down and do it. I mean, like, I have basic strings, Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can get some cool stuff, like, oh my God, thunderous drums and all. I mean, it's like, really? I mean, how many times are you going to use that? And I understand, I'm not scoring movies, I'm not scoring stuff, so sometimes a project.
Well, I mean,
calls
that's
for certain
that's what
things,
it
right?
comes down to is
Yeah.
how often are you actually writing music? If you're not writing music very often, yeah, sure, it's probably not a great idea to go out and drop, several grand a year on sample libraries.
Yeah. But I used
if you
to.
write music a lot, I actually do encourage it if it works for your, like, financial situation,
Yeah.
because it does matter a lot. Like, I find that if you keep them in front of you, because I mean, the oh, I'm never going to use it again thing does happen. But if you put it in front of you, like I said, I put it in my template. This is why I don't do not that there's anything wrong with this, by the way. This is not a criticism of it, but this is why I don't do the Daniel James template thing, because then there's just a bunch of empty tracks, and it's up to me to remember what my options are to put in those tracks. So what I do is I just have everything in front of me at any given time. So I just have this template that's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of tracks, and that reminds me, oh yeah, you haven't used CSS in a while, you haven't used cinesample stuff in a while, you haven't used performance sample stuff in a while, you haven't used Hollywood in a while, and
Right.
then I just kind of start picking between different libraries, and sometimes I'll just use a library not even because I think it's the best choice, but just because I haven't used it in a long time. And that, whether you like it or not, the libraries do change how you write, because some do some things better than other things, so you're more likely to write the thing that the library is good at. And so I find that if you write music a lot, if you're doing it every day, that's really useful, because it allows you to sort of do this thing. I mean, I got to a point with Hollywood where I'd used it so much. I mean, I was like noticing, like, notes, like individual notes that I'd heard before. Like, I could tell, and it was creatively suffocating. So I guess that's what I always tell people, is that, like, it just depends on how much you actually write. If you write a lot of libraries might actually help you. If you don't write very often, though, I don't know what to tell you because, whenever I see these people complaining like, oh, all I do is buy sample libraries, I never write. I'm like, well, then either write or don't. Like, that's
Yeah,
it.
but at the end of the day, I mean, I get that, and I totally agree with you. I'm the same way. It's like when I do a template, I want all the things I own there, so I know what I have. But at the end of the day, if I gave you Cinesamples, all the Cinesamples libraries, the brass, the percussion, at the end of the day, you'll write me something. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like if I told you, Curtis, by the end of the day, you have to write with this library and this, and being a creative, I mean, I'm a very creative person. It's like limitations are our friend, and because it makes you think differently, it makes you think outside the box. Like, how can I take this thing but make it cool, make it unique? Oh, I'll grab a delay, or you know what I'm saying? Like this is how the wheels get spinning. If you have too many options, it hinders creativity. And I know we could go back and forth on that, but just in my experience with me as a person, limitations are my friend. I hate it.
Oh yeah, I definitely am
hate
a big
it.
fan of that
Yeah.
philosophy. It doesn't, to me, it doesn't extend to
Yeah.
like the sound of an instrument, right? Like to me, having one library is unlimited options, right? Because, well, I only have this one library. I'm not going to be thinking about what I want to do, to like get around that constraint. It's going to be, well, I only have this one library, so I'll write whatever I want. And if it doesn't sound great, well, I'll just blame it on the library. Whereas when I have lots of different ones, right? Like I can like go, oh, what does this one do well? What does this one do well? How can I mix those two? How can I put those together? That to me is even actually more constraining because it's asking me use something you haven't used before and learn how to use it better, or use this combination you haven't used before. So it just kind of depends on what you're doing. And again, like I said, I never tell people who, like, if you compose like one piece a week, like you should probably be buying like one sample library a year, maybe. Like,
or buy when you need it.
Yeah, or when you need it, right? Like the only people I recommend the like crazy, get everything is if you're doing it professionally all the time.
Yeah.
Which I'm not even I do. I'm currently without a project. So like I shouldn't be buying new libraries now, and I won't be buying new libraries now. So it just kind of depends on what you're doing.
I guess it's where you're at as a composer, right? I mean, I think newbies fall into that. I gotta get everything because if I get this one, I'm gonna get better.
The other side of it is what I can't stand is I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna write 20 paragraphs on VI Control about how much I hate how many libraries Spitfire has. I mean, it's like, okay, cool.
Did they just revolutionize another thing? I don't know. I saw something.
I don't understand. Like, why are people spending time complaining about this? Like, go write
something better to do.
Just ignore them. Just ignore them. If you don't like their emails, block their emails. Put them in your
delete it like I did.
Yeah, like unsubscribe. Like, so they have an unsubscribe link on everything. I get, that's the other side of it for me that I get confused, like annoyed about, is that when the discussion sort of turns inward into this, like, let's just complain about sample library developers. If you don't like their products, don't buy them. But you know what? Some of us really like lots of different options. Some of us like the idea, and some of us need lots of, like, I'm not even talking about myself. I'm talking about people who work on like big stuff all the time. They constantly need a new supply of sounds into their workflow in order to continue refreshing their refreshing it. And that's what these are for. And like, if you don't like their marketing, just don't buy it. Like, unsubscribe. Right? Just that to me. And the number of people who, like I said, spend how much time complaining about this instead of like writing, it's just, to me, it's so frustrating to me.
I hear you. That's why, like, seriously, that's why I don't go to that site anymore. I
think the site's great.
It's great. I know, I'm saying, but the community side of everything, kind of, for me, just kind of like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like, I don't care. Like, I don't really care. I'll just do my thing. I'll find the library. That's a
perfectly valid way to do it. Yeah, 100%.
But I understand, like, us having a podcast, like, I need to be informed. I need to be. And that's another thing, like, like, I don't really care. And I mean, I care about music. I care about our community. But I don't care about what they have to say. Like, I don't care. If the library appeals to me and I want to throw my money down, that's all that matters. And if it's going to help with a project or something I'm working on, I would do it. But yeah, I totally agree with you. And all that effort that you're wasting writing a thesis on VI Control, you could take that time and maybe go do a piece or go put that effort in studying something, and then hey, you'll discover something new instead of bashing a sample library. It's like it's a sample library. It's not going to solve all our problems. Okay, it's not a real live musician. It is a computer,
and moreover, there's just a huge amount of artistic choices that are made in all these things, and some of them you're going to agree with and some of them you're not, but that's like it has to happen. Someone has to choose if they want a drier sound or a wetter sound or a whatever. Like they're going to be making all these decisions, these aesthetic choices that might be different than yours, and that's fine.
That's fine.
But they have to, because they have to record it in one way or a different way. So
I'm just saying, at the end of the day, these are companies that need to make money. Okay, they are a business. Of course, they want you to buy their stuff. Of course, they're going to market to you. That's what they're doing. They're a company, just like Apple, just like Microsoft, just like Walmart. Any company does this. If you don't like it, then don't listen. Like Curtis said, unsubscribe like I did, because it just got spammy. Like it got way too much for me. And it's like, dude, that's not how you guys used to be. But like Spitfire, like took a turn a couple of years ago. Like I think because they merge with another company or have somebody dealing with their things. Like they actually physically became a business. Like, hey, like Christian and them, they kind of took it off and gave it to somebody else to manage. And when that happened, it became a business. And at the end of the day, that's what it's always been, And if you don't like something, then don't put your money down on it. And then that will tell them that, hey, we shouldn't do that. But obviously people keep throwing money at them. And so they go, hey, it works, So, yeah. Anyway, it's not just Spitfire. I mean, I think Spitfire is probably the most known or guilty.
Yeah, I think they're the loudest.
Yeah. And, I would say probably the most sample library company that I'm most impressed with or their products is probably Performance Samples.
I like Performance Samples a lot.
Yeah. They just have a different take on everything usually.
Yeah.
They have really good stuff and they're recorded really well and really nice. I mean, sometimes
I like
they're
how
limiting.
noisy their samples are. I like noisy samples. I think samples should have lots of noise in them.
Oh,
That's
God, don't even
Whenever someone goes and complains about the sound in A4, if you go through the 16 round robins, you'll notice a chair move. I'm like, well,
big deal, dude. Have you ever listened to? Okay, I'm pulling up the soapbox for 1 second. This pisses me off the most about people, the community. It's like, do you even understand what a recording is? And I mean, like, if you listen to all your most favorite records at all time, even classical scores, you'll hear somebody cough. Nobody cares. Okay, that's a recording. And I'm seriously, pull up some isolated tracks of your favorite bands. If you can find them on YouTube, most of them are on there. You will hear things you would never have heard in the mix before, because once you pile on a bunch of stuff, most of that stuff disappears. Like just listen to like a vocal track of any of your favorite bands, Metallica, Guns, whatever, whoever, AC/DC, whatever. Pick one and listen to it. You will hear things you've never heard before. And you're like, oh my God, that's been there the whole time? I don't buy that argument one bit. Like, oh my God, I hear a little scratch in the violin too.
Yeah.
You put it together with an orchestra, you're not going to hear it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Even when you go to a live performance, people are moving stuff, you don't hear it. I mean, out of all things,
personally, I've never been, and this goes back to that thing I was talking about where, they're going to make aesthetic choices when they're making this library, right? They may be different than what you would make.
It's just
like
a reason to bitch and moan and complain
that
about
are
things that you should be.
within an inch of their life, to me, sound incredibly synthetic and incredibly lifeless, and I don't like them. So I don't generally, as a general rule, I don't get them. But
which one?
But I'm not mad that they exist. Some people need.
Sorry, which ones are you talking about?
If you really want no noise, go buy one of those modeled ones. The ones that aren't even based on a sample. Yeah. Those are super clean and sound.
Yeah, but they sound like crap. I mean, until you get somebody that actually knows how to use them and put nice, like it's hard to get those things to sound good.
It's really hard. Yeah.
Sample modeling. Yeah. Those things, they're great. But just to listen to them alone, it's like, what?
I look forward to buying a bunch of sample modeled libraries like 15 years from now when they've got it all knocked out, because I think it's a very promising technology. But as of right now, whenever I hear that and people are like, oh my gosh, it sounds so great, I'm like, it sounds kind of MIDI to me. personally, but
from
that's okay.
1998.
Yeah, whatever floats your boat. That's always the thing. Live and let live. You
remember
know,
that
just
MIDI
like
from,
don't get mad about it, like me, because I'm wasting my energy here. So
Remember the 90s, dude? The old MIDIs when you go to websites.
those were really clean. There was no noise in them at all.
That's funny. Anyway,
Yeah.
sorry, we got on a little soapbox tangent there, but I'm just saying, like, that's my pet peeve when people start complaining about little noises. Like, dude, you're not gonna hear that in a mix, okay? Like, it's like there's other things you could bitch and moan about, but we're gonna talk about this sick sample, and it's like, oh god. Anyway, it's
Well,
just,
ultimately, the thing is that no matter what you're talking about, no matter what topic it is, I think just the larger following you have, naturally, the more negativity you'll draw up anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Like you just can't please everyone, and for sample libraries, it's like what else can you complain about? Fine, noises and fine, like maybe some samples don't sound great or whatever. But I think it's easier for people to kind of rag on things that they don't think will affect them directly. Like you for example, you're much less likely to, let's say, talk badly about a certain composer or something, because maybe you'll get blacklisted or something. But oh, hey, talking bad about a sample library can't really affect you that badly, right? Okay, then it's an easy target. And then
until you realize that half the people making these libraries are composers.
Yeah,
right.
Anyway, but yes,
it's inexperience mostly. It's just people that don't understand things, and I get it, man. We've all been there. I've been there. Ignorance.
I think what we could do is we could, use our incredibly structured discussion to talk about how great Performance Samples is for a while, because I love them. I think Todd said he loves them. I know Chris loves them.
Yeah.
Such a great company. What's the guy's name? Jasper Blanc? Oh,
yeah,
he's so good.
Yeah.
He just make great products. Highly
No, that's what I'm saying.
Highly recommend. And they're having a giant sale right now where everything is super cheap, because I just bought Vista, so of course now it's on sale.
They're usually inexpensive. I mean, for the most part, like their libraries are pretty cheap. And I mean, they're specific, like for one thing. You know what I'm saying? Like they're tailored to do a thing, which is good. But I'm just saying, as far as like quality and the love that goes into them like that's the one company that stands. It used to be Cinel Samples for me, but I don't know.
They made a ton of stuff recently, which is fine. I think their products are great.
Well, I think because they're more niche based to what they do, and that classic Hollywood sound, and they nail it perfectly. I mean,
I would like to see Cinesamples go back and do some rescripting on their legato. Like, it's not that it's bad, but it's very much of its era. And a lot of times when you sit it next to newer legatos, you can tell, oh, this was done before we, sort of had made some advancements in legato. So I would love to see them go through and rescript a lot of that. But the sample content is so good and the tone is so good.
Yeah.
You layer, and that's the other thing with Cinesamples. You can layer it with anything and it brings that other thing up. Like, it's never bad. It always just brings a lot more detail and just beautiful, beautiful tone into it. So I just love their stuff too. That's my only thing, is that it's very, like, you can tell when it was made. Is my yeah.
It's like East West,
Yeah, it's got the same legato weirdness that East West does. Like where the crossfade volume between the legato transition is just a little weird sometimes. And it just feels like newer stuff, it does that less often, like for whatever reason. I don't know if it has to do with the way they record it now or new techniques or what, but like generally, like Performance Samples is a great example, right? Like, never do I think their legato sounds weird, right? Like it's always just effortless, perfect, niceness. Now, I'm sure there's somewhere where I would backtrack on that in an isolated instance, but as a general rule, I find that to be the case. Stuff from like the Hollywood Cinesamples era, you're finding those things, I feel like, a lot more. I don't know what your experiences
just
are.
The scripting, like you said, it's just,
and I don't think it's like a problem with it. It's just that's how you did it back then, Yeah. That's how you did it in 2010 or whenever they put it out.
2010, Jesus. True. You hit it right on the money. Yeah. I totally agree. And
you had you had less computing resources for people to, throw out the problem. So I'm sure the new ones probably are much more demanding. But anyway, that's just been my experience. But
I think Performance Samples in general is, to me, it feels like the almost the opposite of the Spitfire approach in a way. So it's very focused on the under promise and over deliver type of thing. There's very little in the way of marketing. There's usually not too many walkthroughs, and he usually lets the customer do all the the word of mouth for him. And,
Right.
Relies on the community to do
right.
Right.
Yeah.
which is the way it should be.
Yes, and also speaking of like Cinesamples, by the way, if anyone's curious, they just yesterday started posting again on VI Control. So Mike Patty is officially back, and his product specialist or general manager Steve is now also on the forum, and they're always willing to answer any questions. They're definitely doing some updates to the libraries with scripting and legato and all that, Curtis. So
Yeah.
it's definitely on the right path, I think, and people are happy to see them back.
Yeah, they've always been one of my favorite companies, because I like Mike, and like he would do his own walkthroughs of the things and describe them and talk about them and how to use them, which is always great. And it wasn't high production, and he would actually write a song, like he would actually write a tune, using them, showing how to use them, and I like that. And like Spitfire, it's just on a different level. It's just a different league, and it's fine. I just don't pay attention anymore. They lost me a long time ago.
Sure.
Not that I don't love their stuff. I just don't need to follow it. Like, what new revolution
that's
are they
a perfectly
doing?
reasonable take. I mean, I also think that some of the best stuff they've made has been made in the last couple of years.
5 years ago. 6 years ago.
The new Albion, I think, is choice meats. I mean, just really good stuff. It is quite delicious. Just stuff like that, or their original series. Everything in the original series is worth at least 3 times what they charge for it.
Yeah, and lab stuff's great. And the original stuff,
but it's a lot. It's a lot, and if you don't want to keep up with it, right? If you don't want to do the I need to check and see what Spitfire's put out this week, it's a lot. And
because they're always doing something. But that was it the Firewood piano? It's still my favorite piano.
So good. It's my favorite piano. I don't use any other pianos anymore. I haven't used other pianos all year. It's just been Firewood piano.
It's a good piano. And Olafur Arnold's, that one, the felt piano was always my favorite. I love that piano, but that Firewood one is just so good, especially when you layer it with the felt piano. It sounds good.
Hammers is really good too. The new perk library from What's His Face is very good. It's very much, it takes a position aesthetically, but it's very good.
Well, I mean, okay, Chris. Chris has to bounce. It's okay.
See you guys.
See you, Chris. Thanks
for
joining,
guys.
man.
Talk soon, man.
Hear from
Bye.
You. Bye. I mean, it's just I think the whole orchestral thing that me and you love, I don't think that's what it is anymore. It's more the synthy, atmospheric, and that's where it's moving to, and I get it. And it's cool because I've heard some pretty cool scores, but at the end of the day, the thing that we grew up with, that we love, it's just kind of it's not in vogue
more
anymore.
Niche now. There's only a few composers doing it. It's only on a few films. I mean, but I will admit that if I watch something that is super scored like John Williams, right, it does feel dated. It feels of its time, and that's the way aesthetics and artwork, it goes through phases.
I'll say this though. Last night I watched Psycho for the first time, the original Psycho.
Yeah.
That score,
real good. I think Omni sells the sheet for that.
It holds up to today, man. And I'll tell you this: Friday the 13th, the composer, I can't think of his name right now, he totally ripped that score off. Because there's the thing in Friday the 13th that you hear.
No, they don't sell it. It doesn't look like.
What is it? It's the dun 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 dun. The dun dun with the strings.
Yeah,
dun,
the real
all over Friday the 13th
approach. Yeah.
I heard it in that, and I was like, oh, that's where he ripped it off from. So there you go, folks. All composers rip off everybody.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Bernard Herrmann.
If you look at people I would say John Powell, I think he's still doing the orchestra thing, but he's sort of brought it forward where he's doing kind of interesting things with it. There's more of the let's put 12 horns on the score sort of thing that he does. But he also balances that with the rest of the the orchestra. But you're right. I think that a lot of stuff is sort of, I don't want to say devolving, but becoming more of that really textural
Yeah.
thing.
Like it's moving to the ambient kind of,
but, but like you do get really standout good stuff there too, right?
Yeah.
Like Tenet score is like it just slays me. It's so perfect for what it's supposed to do, and it's so effective in context. Now, do I want to go listen to that by itself? Probably less so, but that's not why he's not writing it for that, right? That's not his
Right.
job. He's not getting paid to make
I'm
an album
curious
that you
to
want
hear the new Dune, because the new Dune movie's coming out.
Yeah, I've listened to the they've
Okay.
released the score.
It's Zimmer, so I'm curious
Yeah,
to see
it's
what it does
very
with it.
it's very Hans Zimmer. Which sounds like I'm poo-pooing it. I need to. It's one of those ones where I listened to it and I was like, I think I like this, but I need to see it with the movie.
Right.
Because
And that's a problem. That's one thing. Oh God, here we go. I think from our generation and before, it's like the music served the pictures. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't need to have the picture to listen to the music to enjoy it. Like if you listen to John Williams score, and I hate to just say John Williams. I mean, even Alan Silvestri. Listen to Back to the Future. I can see the movie play in my head when I'm listening to the music without the movie. I know exactly with what part, because the music is doing the emotion of what's on screen, if that
Mhm.
makes any sense. Do you know what I mean? It's telling the story
Yeah.
through the music. And we've lost that. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
see, I'm going to disagree. I don't think that it's
Okay.
like gotten worse. It's just
I didn't say
changed.
worst. It's just
It's
not as-
because the aesthetics of film changed.
That's
Film
true.
used to be a lot more.
This is true.
It was more unapologetically you're watching a movie, right? Where
Yes.
and I feel is basically 2000s onward. It's become more where it wants to be less like you're watching a movie and a little bit more like you're watching a documentary. There's sort of that realist
Yeah.
aesthetic.
Yeah.
And when you move to that more realist aesthetic, it's just different. Like there's ways to do that well and ways to do that poorly, of course. Just like there's ways to do the John Williams style terribly, right? Like
oh yeah.
who among us has not watched the movie, the romantic comedy that tries to do the lush romantic score and it's just too much, right? Like we've all seen that, right? But with that more realist aesthetic that I feel like film and games too have sort of moved into, there's sort of been you can't do these like big long romantic era style melodic statements because that's too unapologetically fiction, I guess, if that makes any sense.
No, I
And I think there's pluses and minuses to that. I think the problem comes when that becomes the only thing, right? When that's the only way anything is, I think it becomes stale and kind of boring. The good news is that there's a lot of places where that's not happening, right?
Mhm.
Like I brought up John Powell, like his work, especially on animation,
Oh, do How to
It's
Train Your Dragon? Oh my God.
brilliant, right? Right.
Yeah.
And in animation, you don't have to go for that realist aesthetic, right? Because it's a cartoon,
Yeah, it's a cartoon.
so no one's watching this to feel like they're there, right? Like no one watches,
Right.
It's
an emotional thing. It's
right? To feel
yeah.
like they're a toy, So,
But it's doing the emotion for the movie.
Yeah.
It's emphasizing what's going on screen, and it's you know what I'm saying, like making you feel.
Yeah,
Because I'm telling you right now,
absolutely.
the older
and
I
I
get,
think that's where that style has kind of moved to, and I imagine that eventually the more realist aesthetic will become dated, right? And people will want to, it'll
the
swing
drum
back
thing
and
is already
forth and into new areas, and so that's kind of what I would say is that it's just different. I don't think it's worse. But I, like you, I also kind of miss the old thing too sometimes, right? Like sometimes you're like, well, does everything have to be this like just
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's just a synth pad or it's a synth doing arps.
Yeah.
And then bringing the drum. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, okay, it got stale. It's to like the trailer thing. Like every trailer sounds the same today. Oh God, here we go. We're coming to the climax. Okay, we're gonna
I
go
think
back
it's
to the
weird the
atmosphere
way
with the nice little
trailers
piano.
are not realist. Like they're the opposite, right? Like
Yeah.
if you watch trailers, like and you listen to like the percussion, it's so overdone now,
Yeah.
right? And again, I know that's just a style, but
That's
I'm
what it
just
is.
surprised that that's the case because that's in such in diametric opposition to what
Mhm.
the actual movies are going to be, right? right? Like the actual movies are going to be much more subdued. They're going to rely less on the hyped up music. Like it's just going to kind of be more of a sonic texture for the
Yeah.
most part, and in many circumstances. But then you go to the trailer, you go,
Yeah, dude. Or now it's the thing of like, hey, let's take an old pop song or an old song and then whatever the hell they're doing with it, like
Mhm.
basically doing
reimagine it. Yeah.
reimagine it with the song in there. And sometimes it doesn't work for me. It's like, really, you chose that song?
Yeah, sometimes it really doesn't work. Sometimes I really like it.
But
Sometimes
sometimes, yeah,
it depends on how they do it.
exactly.
I
But
thought.
yeah, I mean, I think
I'm
we're
gonna
just old,
go back to the
Curtis.
property
And
here. I thought Marvel in the Black Widow did the Nirvana song. I thought that was nice. That was a nice.
yeah, that was good. Yeah, that was
really
what I was
fun.
thinking about. Yeah, there was one. Was it Dune or it was some movie that just came out and they did the Jefferson Airplane song.
Yeah, I'm not sure which one.
I can't remember what it was now. And I was like
familiar with
yeah,
Jefferson
That doesn't
Airplane,
really
but-
work.
Yeah, I think it has a chance of really failing, really not working.
It's a trailer.
Yeah,
And that's the thing too, like you were saying, like a trailer, you get this sensation like, oh, this is what it's gonna be, and then you go to the movie and it's like it's not that at all.
Mhm.
And the aesthetic of it, but that's what a trailer is supposed to do, is to get you hyped up, to get you to go to the movie. That's all it is.
Yeah, the
And-
more hybrid perk that's in a trailer, the less I'm noticing that I've grown this like immunity to it. It's the
Mhm.
percussion specifically when I hear, and everything is just so punchy and everything is punched up to just 11 out of 10. It really does not speak to me usually. And I just
Yeah,
notice it. I think it
it's hurting.
sounds cheap.
It
Right?
does.
It sounds bad to me. Like Hans Zimmer doesn't do that, right? Like if
No,
you listen
not
to Hans
anymore.
Zimmer's percussion, well, I mean, he punches it up, but not to that level, not to this level where like I feel like what they do now is they take like a drum hit and they suck all the low out of it because it's not punchy, right? It
Yeah.
doesn't cut as well.
Right.
And yeah, that it really doesn't sound good to me. And I think they would do well. I think they would do well to like listen to what Hans Zimmer does. It's much more balanced.
Oh yeah. Well, it's
when
back
he
to your
does-
talk about John Williams.
Yeah.
Like, like people trying to do Hans Zimmer, and it's
Mhm.
horrible. It's like
Yeah.
you're missing his essence of what he does.
Yes.
And that's the thing, is people trying to do that, and you're not getting it. You're not getting what he's doing. And usually he's very subtle. He's very
Mhm.
subtle with this stuff, and he only uses
Yes.
it when he needs to use it, and that's why it works, and that's why he's Hans Zimmer. And I
Yeah.
love Hans Zimmer for the fact of what he does. It's like every score, like you play this to this, and you're like, that's the same guy.
Well,
what
and
I
it
mean?
has it has that like ineffable quality to it, right?
Yep.
Like that sort of indescribable sense. He definitely has like a something about it that's compelling, even when it's
Mhm.
just texture, even when it's
pop.
just
It's his
Yeah.
pop sensibilities, dude. It's
Yeah.
because he was a pop musician
Yeah.
before he was this, and he leans on that all the time. And say what you want about, oh, he just uses a D, he doesn't use all these suspended. He don't need to.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. Like John Williams, like he's a little more refined, a little more, and but it works, and he tells. That's what I'm saying. Like, okay, take Hans Zimmer in the '90s. He did The Lion King.
Mhm.
Hello, and then take him.
Yeah,
now,
which has
it's
some
like,
actually surprisingly classical sounding
yes.
score in it, like a lot actually.
What's the score? The fire with the fire. Oh God, the movie. Oh Jesus. The one with the fire breakthrough. No. Oh my God, it's gonna haunt me now. It was in the early '90s. It was with the fire.
Backdraft? Is this what you're
Backdraft.
trying to?
Yes,
Yes.
Backdraft. And like that was like kind of this, like that's a different score. That's a Hans Zimmer from like what? Like compared to today.
Mm-hmm.
And this whole drum and synth thing is not new. I mean,
Yeah.
It's not new. This has been going on since the 80s. In the 80s, that's what they were trying to do. The technology just wasn't there. I mean, if the guys that composed in the 80s had what we have today, they'd be doing, listen to Terminator.
Yeah.
Dude, that's all synth. And the cool thing about the first Terminator was the guy that scored, I can't think of his name, basically did it all in one take.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't do what you did then. He just basically sat at the keyboard and did all his things
Yeah.
and had
In like
multiple
13.8 too.
synths. Yeah. Which is insane, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, that's crazy.
It's not 13.8. I think it's 11.4. But anyway.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good score. And there was huge ass drums. Listen to T2. Dun,
Yeah.
dun, 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 dun. You know, it's like, holy God, but it's good. It's in taste. It's not 15,000 drums. It's just the drum.
Well, I mean, it's got a aesthetic goal, right?
Yeah.
That it's trying
Machine.
to and it's honestly trying to meet that goal rather than I just want it to sound hip. I just want it to sound like something else. I just want to sort of make a audio signifier of something else rather than actually write something, which I think does happen, especially the more that and I write library music. There's nothing wrong with raw library music. There's nothing wrong with royalty free, but
Nope.
there is a sort of tendency, a what's the word I'm searching for? An incentive to kind of try to write something that is that piece, but just a little different, right? And I think that the more that happens, the more that kind of tends to suck life out of it. So I don't always think that's the best way to do it, but I do think a lot of great work is done in trailer houses who like custom score trailers. I would like to see a lot more of that because I think those people do a really, really good job. And you can really tell when someone has written a trailer track to go to this trailer versus we just pulled the cheapest library music we could find. Right. And again, not that if you write library music, you're a bad person. That is not what I'm saying. I would encourage you to try to be as creative and unique as you can inside that space. Going back to limits, right? Like there's a fun set of constraints, right? But yeah, I think mostly that it's the choices that say audio supervisors are making. I think that sometimes suck the life out of things. And
but that's just what it is.
They're probably doing like 8 of these a day, right? Like,
right. Just like you said, I mean, that's just the flavor of the whatever, and that's what they that's what they got to do, and they got to meet the objectives. And I get it, composers, like you said, the composer. I have the utmost respect that people are doing this and making a living doing it, because I'm telling you, it's not easy, man.
No, it is not.
It is not easy, and I put my hats off to them, even though the music might not be what we want. But hey, you're putting the work in, you're doing it, and you're getting the job done. And that at the end of the day, that's all that matters. You're putting.
Well, like I said, I can't blame you for responding to incentives, right? Like if a trailer track that's got these punchy drums that I complain about endlessly sells better, I mean, good for you. I don't blame you for that.
And also we gotta, we're older, we've been around, we've heard a lot of movies.
We're just crotchety old men's.
Yes, but I mean, with art, anything with art, the bad stuff always filters out, and we only remember the good.
Yeah. Well, and there's always good stuff, right? It's not like you look back at an era and you're like, oh, there was nothing good made for that decade, right? Like, there will be a filter. But going back to Dune, it's one of those things where I listen to it and I like Hans Zimmer and it's got that Hans Zimmer-ness.
But
I just need to see it. I need to see how it works. I don't know, the chanting, I'm sure it works, but it feels, I'm concerned about it. We'll see. He's never failed, so probably
I mean,
not worth
well, I guess a lot of people hated, what was that score that was the organ one? Was that for
Interstellar? That's a really good score. Yeah.
But wasn't that like controversy, I think?
Oh yeah, I'm sure when he first put it out it was very controversial. But look how he uses the organ. It's so modern and interesting, and I mean he's basically using an organ like a synthesizer, of course, but it works and it makes sense, and the music he writes for it is interesting. And if you actually look at the notation of it, there's several YouTubes where they've sort of transcribed it for you. It's really compelling writing. Yeah.
What I like about Hans Zimmer too is he's always honest about what he does. Like he never tries to hide. Like, he's like, this is what I do. And that's how I do it. And I respect him for that. And I've always respected him for that. And he's not ashamed of what he does. He's like, this is what I do. And this is what people hire me to do. But what I love about what he does is every movie he treats different. He starts from zero.
Yes, he does.
And I love that. I love that about him. And that's why I like Junkie XL too. Because, and we were talking about like the Terminator. I like how they bring the element. Okay, what's this movie about? Cool. I need to bring elements of my music that reflects the world that we're going to be in. And I love scores that do that. Like they'll bring in elements or instruments of the whatever. Like if it's a certain culture or a certain area on the world, they'll try to bring in that flavors of like musical instruments or whatever, that would feel like it's there. And that's what another thing I love about Hans Zimmer, and Junkie XL and Well, I should say Tom. I don't know
Yes,
what's called
I think he's
Junkie.
trying to
Yes.
change his brand.
Yeah. And I
Did you
love
notice
that.
they renamed all the orchestral tools libraries?
Yeah.
It's not Junkie XL Brass now. It's Tom Hulkenberg Brass and Tom Hulkenberg
Well, I think
Percussion.
he's now known more as Tom. You know.
I think it's great.
Yeah,
He can do whatever he wants. That's fine.
Yeah.
He writes
I
great
love this
stuff.
Mad
so.
Max score, dude. That, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh. But like there you go. He had the drum thing going, but it was done right. Like it was, I don't know, there's something about it. It sounds
Yeah, he does a really good
good.
job. I picked up OT's his new drum thing.
Mhm.
That OT did. It's really interesting, and it brings something to the table that I didn't have. Right, like it's not just repackaging Surdos for the millionth time. Right. It's actually bringing something to a Surdo sound that I've never heard before. And he does the chromatic mapping of his velocity.
Yes.
Which is really interesting. And I actually really like the workflow. I think it's good.
Mhm.
So
It makes sense.
It's a cool way of doing it. I don't know if I would want every library to do it, but for his library, it definitely works that way. And it works really well.
From his standpoint, like, because I kind of relate to him in a way, the way he composes, sort of like he's more hands-on, and like it's like he's actually playing the drums, so he could just hit the keyboard with the patterns or with the, you know what I mean, like as a drummer. So like, and then you can just pick where you want to hit the velocities, and it makes it more dynamic. I get it, and it makes more sense.
Well, and it's a lot easier to edit later. Like when you want to go back and change, like, oh, that one note is too loud, like you just move it down, and since it's mapped chromatically. That was the one thing. LA Modern Percussion, which is a really nice library, tries to kind of do the same thing, but they only map them to the white keys. So you can't just grab a thing and just like, move it up. You have to like make sure it's not on any. I wish, like, that's the one thing about that library. I wish they would go to chromatic mapping the way that the Tom Hulkenberg stuff is. Still a great library.
Yeah, I thought it was. I didn't know. I don't own it, but I mean, I remember everybody like being blown away.
Yeah,
by that
it's done. What's that called? Diatonically, where it's just the white keys. So it can be kind of a pain in the butt.
Right. Yeah, because the black keys in there. Yeah.
To sit there and like, oh, why isn't that note playing? Oh, it's on F
why is that note not playing?
Yeah.
I got it. Yeah, that is kind of weird now. But I mean, I guess they're looking at it like,
I just use their velocity patches for the most part, so
I could see why they did that, because like most people would just hit the white keys, but like you're saying, if you're just doing the drumming thing, which to me makes more sense, it should be all keys. Yeah.
Well, and like I'll do something where like I'll use like a drum, I'll like write a 8-bar drum line, right? Like, and then I'll want to use it with the same one later, but I want it louder. And with Junkie XL, I just copy it and then just like literally, option up, and it's done. It's louder now.
The workflow. Cool. Yeah. I mean, I guess going back to, we've been all over the place, but like,
well, I guess point of today.
Yeah. Hey, we're just getting something out there for everybody, and we haven't really talked. So and I know Chris had to leave. I apologize because like Chris didn't get to talk very much, and me and Curtis always hog.
We'll let him do the entire next podcast on himself.
We'll just give it to Chris now.
Yeah.
It's not that I haven't been doing music. Like for me, I just sit at the piano, a little electric piano that we got my daughter when she was doing piano lessons, and she's not really doing it right now. And I'm one of those parents, like, I'm not going to force my kids to do music. But she likes to sing. So she's more into singing. And she's taken a couple voice lessons, but she hits pitch. So I'm very happy. Like I haven't taught her anything. I haven't sat her down like, hey, here's a G, and I've never done that. So she just likes to sing. So that's good. It's musical. I think my youngest might be interested in piano a little bit because she likes to mess with it. And she, like, I just heard her sit down and kind of put some notes together. And I'm like, okay, I think you might have something, because it's not just like random. You know what I mean? When most kids sit down, it's just kind of
it's not just like
there's like some thought behind what she was doing. So I was a little impressed. But I'm not going to pressure my kids like, you must play an instrument. I would love them to, but I'm just not that kind of parent, because how it happens usually if you do your kid too young and then they go for 5 years and they get sick of it. They don't want to do it anymore. They lost the passion or whatever. So anyway, I was what my point was is, I sit down at the piano, and it's not like I'm not doing anything. I'm working more on fundamentals of music theory and chord progressions and how to put things together and relation how things work. And like I'm really uncovering melodic stuff, how to put melodies together and how they work and how the like 1, 2, 3, 4, how 2 works back to 1. You know what I'm saying? Like that relationship. I know it sounds stupid and basic, but
it doesn't sound stupid.
There's some things about going back to basics, man. Because I've learned a lot and covered a lot of stuff of like, oh my God, that makes so much more sense. And like, hey, I can do that. Why doesn't that note sound good when I do that? You know what I mean? And melody writing is the hardest thing to do. I mean, that's
Well, what was it? I think it was Bear McCreary posted some Twitter. He was like, why is it when I have all the melodies worked out, I can write like 12 minutes of music a day, but if I am trying to come up with a melody, what does he say? Like I spend all day on 8 bars.
Yeah. See, it's
I get it. I get it.
Not just us, dude. It's even the greats.
Yep.
And I think that's another thing too. Like we got to stop comparing ourselves to everybody. Everybody's like everybody, man. We're all in this. We all do the same thing. We all beat our head up against the wall. We stare at blank screens. They have bad days. So don't. I've always been hard on myself when it comes to the music. Like I'm a perfectionist when it comes that way. It's like, and I guess the older I get, the more I understand. Like it just doesn't work that way. Hey, I just think I don't have it today. It's okay.
Yeah.
And I think I put
100%.
too much pressure on myself, because where I was in my life at the time, when I really started looking at maybe making this thing a thing, and you can't force it, you can't rush it, you just gotta let it happen organically. Just like the podcast, like it's
just
starting
like
to grow.
the podcast, like
it's starting to grow now, and it's like we're not in it.
Between May and October, it's just organic.
But I'm saying, like when we first started this thing, nobody knew anything and nobody cared, and then now, like that, it's been out there, and people are finding it, and it's like, oh man, I wish this was 3 years ago and we had all you guys. But we'll try to do episodes when we can. It's just really hard for me.
Try to be a little more regular about it, if nothing else than just like asking, "Hey, we doing well this month?"
Yeah, or like if somebody wants to take the mic and throw down an episode.
I really think we should tell Chris he's in charge for next one. He can just monologue.
Because I've done it one time.
I agree. He didn't get to say much.
Yeah, I mean, I talked about investing and stuff, and it's like I would like to have like a general podcast, but I know it's music related. I love to talk about music, but sometimes I want to talk about other things too. It's like video game. Like I've been getting really into video games and playing like all these games from like the last like 5-10 years that I missed, and using this good PC that I built.
Nice.
I'm playing through Mass Effect right now, the Legendary.
Ooh.
I mean, I played it way back in the day in Xbox, but playing through that. Deathloop is next on my list.
Cool.
Did you
do Game Pass or just do it on Steam?
No, I just got Steam. Yeah, I had Game Pass, and I'll probably get Game Pass again because my oldest is starting to kind of getting a little interested in gaming, which is kind of cool. She wants to play Minecraft. She does Roblox once in a while.
Okay.
They love Mario, obviously. Nintendo.
Classic.
Yeah, they played. But they would rather watch the videos on YouTube of other people playing than them playing. So
I've noticed that that's a thing.
So, but I'm excited that they're into it, and because my old gaming computer that I had, I gave to them. They don't really play it much, but they'll play Roblox once in a while. So it's there for them, to play. But yeah, we need to get back onto playing some stuff together. I know our schedules are tough, man. We got kids, and what I would like to do, hey, if anybody is listening out there, us old fart dads, get into our. I have a gaming channel there. Let's start getting the community together and playing some games on the weekend. Like,
yeah, we should do that.
Just hop in Discord, ping me, and we'll try to set something up. Like, I did buy New World, and I got into it. I think I'm like level 8. But it's like those type of games, like you need people to play with. You can't do that single. Like, I'm not a big MMO
that's
guy,
why I haven't picked that one up. Exactly because I know that everybody I would normally play with plays other things and probably won't be into it. So.
I've just been doing a lot of like single player games because I can play here and there. And dude, I'm telling you, a game I just played and they just released a new episode is The Long Dark. Oh God, dude! If you haven't played that, if anybody hasn't played it, and if you like story-driven games, like I like story stuff, so
Yeah.
oh God, it's so good, man. Oh my God. I've
Awesome.
played like 35 hours. They have they just released a new episodes. They have 5 episodes. It's like a survival game, but it's got a story to it. But you can play just the survival mode, if you want, without the story. I haven't done that yet, but and dude, Firewatch. Oh my God, that was another good one. Oh God, yeah.
Nice.
I mean, and these are short games. Like you can play these in like 8 hours.
Yeah, they're
or
not
10
like 70 billion hour games. Yeah. Yeah.
Like Witcher 3, that's on my list. I'm like, oh God, do I want to?
It's gonna take up next year for you.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I played Cyberpunk when it came out, and I'm
I
waiting
to. I still haven't finished it. I'm still at the
Me
part
either,
where
dude. I
last time we talked in May. I just haven't. Oh, it's because that last thing takes so long, and I keep trying to block out a time where I know I can play it from the beginning of the mission to the end of the mission.
It was a good game, man. I loved it.
I actually liked it. Yeah, I mean,
I loved it.
The reason I liked it was because I didn't have game-breaking technical issues. Like the few bugs I saw were hilarious instead of you can't progress your story or whatever. But
I think it's just like you're saying, it's just people to hate on to hate because it's so easy. It was an easy target because they released it too soon. And
I'm of two minds on it because I do think that's true. I also think why did you release this on base Xbox One and PS4?
Oh yeah,
that was a little scummy. So there's also that, which I do think probably was not great. But then also, if you played it on a decent PC, it was fine.
Dude, amazing! The game looks amazing.
Yeah, it looks amazing. Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, what do you want in an open world game, right? You want a nice story, a good story, and a nice open world. And is the map good? And both of those things are good.
But
so
the
if they
problem
can solve
with that game,
the other problems, they're good to go, I think. But
that I had with it is the world doesn't feel lived in like a GTA. Like there's stuff going on all the time, and or Red Dead 2. Oh my God, dude. Oh my God.
Definitely.
And it's I would love to see the gang wars. Hey, there's a gang war over here. Things going on in the world, like a universe.
Yeah.
That they need more of that. But I hope they do a No Man's
But the design of it is not fundamentally broken, right?
Dude, yeah.
The design of it is fundamentally excellent, and I think it just needs more time in the oven.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah, they have a great base foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Now build on it, man. Get the AI where it needs to be. Look at GTA 5. That game's been out for 10 years? Yeah. And when it started, it wasn't where it was today. I mean, they built on that.
I mean, it was a lot closer to where it is today than some games, but I mean, that's just the games now. I mean, it's too hard. It's just not, I don't think it's possible to release a game in the state that it needs to actually be in anymore, because when you get to these what they're calling now quadruple A games, apparently, by the way, I work on a quadruple A game. They're calling Halo Infinite a quadruple A game.
Wow.
Because Microsoft has spent $500 million on it or whatever, supposedly.
But dude, Microsoft,
I don't know if that's actually true, by the way. I don't take this as a source. I'm waiting for some Kotaku journalist to send me an email. I don't have no idea what they spent on it. I read the same things you do. Anyway, that's what they're saying. And I just think it's hard to make them. It's just really hard. And sometimes they just have to be released so that they can see what needs to be fixed. So,
well, that's the thing. That's the beauty of today. They can push updates, man. We didn't have this when we were kids. When you got the game, that was the game you were.
You're right. Everybody puts that quote by that Nintendo guy about how a bad game is bad forever. I'm like, really? No, it's bad until they patch it.
That's what I'm saying. It's we have the beauty of they can patch it. They could change the game and update it to you, and bam, dude. And the game can live longer. It has a longer shelf life. You know?
Yep.
So, we didn't have this, man. When you bought your Nintendo game or your Genesis game,
that was it. That was it.
Yeah, that was it. Till Xbox. I think was it Xbox or Xbox 360 to do updates?
So Xbox, I think, was the first console to have an Ethernet jack in the back.
Yes.
And then
God.
Yeah, it was the Xbox. Really, the 360 PS3 era was when you really got into this more.
I'll take that back. No, Dreamcast, because Dreamcast came out in '99.
That's true. Yeah, Dreamcast did have an Ethernet port. That's right.
Was it Ethernet or was it phone jack?
Oh, it was a phone jack. It had a modem in it. That's right.
That's right. It had a modem. Because I remember you needed it for Phantasy Star Online. Yeah. My buddy played that, and I was like, "This is the coolest thing ever," because you could get online to play the game.
Right. Right.
Was so ahead of his. This is 99, man. Like for a console, that's crazy.
For a console to have basically what's an MMO, right? Like
Yeah.
that's pretty nuts. I mean, there were MMOs, but they weren't on consoles. Yeah.
Right in 99. I mean, that was 99, I think.
Yeah.
And then but Xbox changed the game, dude. When Xbox came out, it was a computer. Like it was a computer. You could.
It's just a computer in a box,
Yeah.
and I think that Xbox did a really good job pioneering what online gaming on a console would look like. Like people forget, like it's easy to like look at like what it is like now and just assume that was obvious, but it really wasn't. Like somebody had to design this idea of matchmaking, you know, and a UI for it, and like what it looks like to have your friends online. Because I mean, you really didn't have that even on PC. Like you would go play CS:GO, or not, it wasn't CS:GO back then. It was just Counter-Strike. But you would go play Counter-Strike, and it was like the way you would do it is you would go and there would just be this giant list of lobbies, right? You remember that?
Oh
and like,
my god.
who knew what you were joining, and it was very unpolished and just kind of Wild West, which was great, right? Because sometimes you had really beautiful, sublime moments of surprise, but yeah, what they really pioneered was the UI and how it would all, you know, look like when it was.
Do you remember Tribes? Dude,
Which
that
one?
game. So Tribes. It was something. It was like a longer title, but it was basically a map, kind of, you know, and you had a jetpack, so you could fly around the stage. It was a shooter, you know, open like a FPS shooter, but like you had jetpacks, and it was so cool. It just never caught on. I think it was
Tribes
Sierra?
is a series of live science fiction first-person shooter games released between 1998 and 2012. Yeah, I've never played it.
Cool. I remember my buddy showing me it, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's so cool!" And you'd have to get online on a dial-up to play it, and it was so bad.
Oh yes, I remember playing like Command and Conquer over dial-up with my friend. It was so cool
Star Wars
to be able to do that.
Galaxies. I have a screenshot that I found. I was getting 8 FPS. 8 FPS to play Star Wars Galaxies with a 56K modem, dude. Back then, you didn't care, though, man. It was just like...
because it was online. It was like you're playing with other people. This is so
God,
cool.
the rubber banding.
And then like somebody would like pick up the phone and try to dial, and your game would crash. It was great. All right. I gotta run. I'm sorry to cut short old man time because I'm actually enjoying it, but...
Maybe we'll start a new podcast. The
That's
old
right,
farts.
old man time. Just
We could talk about anything.
Things.
Anyway,
That's right.
thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it, man. It's been a
Absolutely.
while. I hope everybody out there enjoyed this podcast. Sorry we've been missing in action. We'll try to get back on a schedule, but we just want to.
We'll try to be more. We'll just try to be, instead of 8 months between, maybe like skip every other month or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it's just tough to get us all together because our schedules are really different.
Time zones and all that. So
yeah. So anyway, thanks
right.
everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
All right, sounds good. Talk to you later.
All right, bye, Curtis. I really appreciate it, man.
Bye.
Bye bye.